Welcome to today's webinar, Spring 2021 SAT School Day Scores and Reporting. Today I will provide an overview of the SAT Scores and Reporting, explain how to access SAT School Day scores, and review several reports from the K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal. A copy of this presentation is available at the URL on this slide. Let's begin with an overview of the SAT Scores and Reporting. Our research clearly tells us that college and career readiness is not a point in time. In fact, it is a process that requires students to focus on what matters most to be on track for college readiness. That is why we offer a suite of 3 assessments that are tied to each other, not only through common content, but through a common scale that measures student growth in readiness. On this slide, we are looking at the SAT scores and score ranges. You may be familiar with content on this slide, but we'll review the score information for the SAT. SAT scores include the total score, which is on a 400 to 1600 point scale and is the sum of 2 section scores. The total score is used for university and scholarship applications. Section scores are on a scale of 200 to 800 points each. The College Board College and Career Readiness benchmarks are set at the section level. Test scores are on a scale of 10 to 40 each. The reading test and writing test make up the evidence-based reading and writing section, whereas the math test makes up the math section. Cross-test scores are on a scale of 10 to 40 as well. Items from each of the 3 tests contribute to these scores. Subscores are reported on a range of 1 to 15 each. The subscores are specific to each test. The SAT asks students to apply a deep understanding of the few things shown by current research to matter most for college readiness and success. They'll find questions modeled on the best work of classroom teachers and perform tasks practiced in challenging coursework. The SAT is centered on 8 key features. We'll review 7 of the key features as the essay was not administered with the SAT in spring of 2021. Many questions on the assessments focus on important, widely used words and phrases found in texts in many different subjects. The focus of these questions is on determining the meaning or implications of these words and phrases in the contexts in which they are used. This is demanding but rewarding work centered on words and phrases that students use throughout their lives in high school, college, or workforce training and beyond. Students will no longer need to use flashcards to memorize obscure words, only to forget them the minute they put their test pencils down. The assessments engage students in close reading and honor the best work of the classroom. When students take the evidence-based reading and writing sections of the assessments and the essay task on the SAT, they'll be asked to demonstrate their ability to interpret, synthesize, and use evidence found in a wide range of sources. These sources include informational graphics, such as tables, charts, and graphs, as well as multi-paragraph passages in the areas of literature and literary nonfiction, the humanities, science, history, and social studies, and on topics about work and careers. For every passage or pair of passages students read on the reading test, at least one question asks them to decide which part of the text best supports the answer to the previous question. In other cases, students are asked to integrate the information conveyed through words and graphics in order to find the best answer to a question. Questions on the writing and language test also focus on command of evidence. Students are asked, for example, to analyze sequences of sentences or paragraphs to make sure they are logical. In other questions, students are asked to interpret graphics and to edit a portion of the accompanying passages so that it clearly and accurately conveys the information in the graphics. The assessments focus in depth on three essential areas of math: problem solving and data analysis, heart of algebra, and passport to advanced math. Problem solving and data analysis is about being quantitatively literate. It includes using ratios, percentages, and proportional reasoning to solve problems in science, social science, and career contexts. The heart of algebra focuses on the mastery of linear equations and systems, which helps students develop key powers of abstraction. Passport to Advanced Math focuses on the students' familiarity with more complex equations and the manipulation they require. Current research shows that these areas most contribute to readiness for college and career training. In addition to these areas, the SAT will include questions on additional topics in math, including the kinds of geometric and trigonometric skills that are most relevant to college and careers. Students will engage with questions grounded in the real world and directly related to the work performed in college and career. The evidence-based reading and writing section includes questions on literature and literary nonfiction, but also features charts, graphs, and passages like the ones students are likely to encounter in science, social studies, and other majors and careers. Students are asked to do more than correct errors. They need to edit and revise to improve texts from the humanities, history, social science, and career contexts. The math section features multi-step applications to solve problems in science, social science, career scenarios, and other real-life contexts. Students are presented with a scenario and then asked several questions about it. This allows students to dig into a situation and think about it, then model it mathematically. On the SAT, students are asked to apply their reading, writing, language, and math knowledge and skills to answer questions in science, history, and social studies contexts. In this way, the assessments call on the same sorts of knowledge and skills that students will use in college, in their jobs, and throughout their lives to make sense of recent discoveries, political developments, global events, and health and environmental issues. Students will encounter challenging texts and informational graphics that pertain to the aforementioned issues and topics in the evidence-based reading and writing section and the math section. Questions require them to read and comprehend texts, revise texts to be consistent with data presented in graphics, synthesize information presented through texts and graphics, and solve problems grounded in science and social science contexts. The U.S. founding documents, including the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the Federalist Papers, have been inspired by and have helped to inspire a conversation that continues to this day about the nature of civic life. Authors, speakers, and thinkers from the United States and around the world have broadened and deepened the conversation around such vital matters as freedom, justice, and human dignity. Students will encounter a passage from a text from this global conversation. In this way, the assessments will inspire a close reading of these rich, meaningful, often profound texts, not only as a way to develop valuable college and career readiness skills, but also as an opportunity to reflect on and deeply engage with issues and concerns central to informed citizenship. The SAT suite of assessments does not deduct points for incorrect answers. Students earn points for the questions they answer correctly. This move to rights-only scoring encourages students to give the best answer they have to every question. The reading test on the SAT and the rest of the suite has single and paired passages. There is emphasis on cross-disciplinary contexts and the inclusion of informational graphics as well. The range of text complexity on the SAT varies from 9th grade level reading to college level reading. The test focuses on words in context and command of evidence, and items from the test will contribute to both of these subscores. All questions on the writing and language test are passage-based. The passages are written about a variety of topics in the area of humanities, history and social studies, science, and careers. Some history and social studies and science passages will be accompanied by an informational graphic, a table, chart, or graph, and students will be asked to correct the passage to accurately describe the informational graphic. The writing and language test focuses on 4 subscores: words in context, command of evidence, expression of ideas, and standard English conventions. The math test focuses on what matters most for college and career readiness: problem solving and data analysis, algebra, and advanced mathematics. One portion of the math test allows the use of a calculator, another portion does not, focusing on application, conceptual understanding, and procedural skill and fluency. Students will answer multiple question types, multiple choice, and student-produced responses. They'll solve equations and answer word problems. Many questions will be set in social studies, science, and career contexts. Some questions will be single questions, while others will have multiple questions tied to the same information. Some questions will be single-step problems, while others require multiple steps to arrive at the correct solution. The next series of slides focus on accessing scores within College Board's K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal. Provisioning access to College Board's K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal should only be provided to educators employed at the school who are allowed to see student-level data. Score reports from the SAT School Day Administration should only be accessed by school employees. Access to your school's K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal should not be provisioned to any external users. Educators and students can access their scores through the online score reporting portal, which is hyperlinked on this slide. For educators, the online score portal is referred to as the K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal. Let's review the steps for accessing scores. I'll explain how to designate a school-level data access manager, provision detail access to administrators and to the test coordinator, and how to access score reports within the K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal. First, I'll provide a refresher for current users of the K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal. If you have a College Board account and have previously accessed scores from an SAT administration or PSAT-related assessment administration, log in to your College Board Professional Educator account and select K-12 Assessment Reporting. Then, once you have accessed the K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal, use the Find a Student Score Report feature on the landing page to locate a student's SAT School Day Score Report. Once the report loads, click on the SAT School Day Report to view more details and download an official PDF score report. The next 10 slides focus on new users of the K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal. The next portion of today's webinar will focus on the roles to assign to new users of the K-12 portal. To create a College Board professional account, click on the URL on the presentation deck. Upon creating the account, you must provide your school's attending institution or AI code and school affiliation. You will also select a username and password. Please note, if you are a test coordinator and ordered test materials, you do not need to create a new College Board account. In order to access scores with the K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal, one user must be designated as the Data Access Manager. If you are the principal or school administrator or designee, you will access the Managing Access to K-12 Assessment Reporting under the General tab on the dashboard. In order to receive the access code for the Data Access Manager role, the school administrator must call 888 SAT HELP. Once the administrator has the access code, select the Managing Access to K-12 Assessment Reporting role. The Data Access Manager will provide the professional organization and the access code in the field. Once the access code has been successfully added, there will be a notification at the top of the page. The school's Data Access Manager will have the Managing Access to Support K-12 Assessment Reporting tool in their College Board dashboard. The Data Access Manager is responsible for maintaining which school or district staff can access the SAT, PSAT related scores in the K-12 Assessment Reporting portal. Let's review the role of the Data Access Manager as well as the 4 possible roles for end users of the K-12 Assessment Reporting portal. Data Access Manager. Access managers must align each role that an educator needs at their school, including themselves. Specific roles and functionality of each role are outlined on the slide. Let's focus on the Detailed Reports role. For detailed reports, this role provides complete access to the Reports Center, including aggregate data and data for individual students, as well as personally identifiable information. Therefore, this role should only be given to teachers, counselors, and other staff authorized to see student-level results. This role does not grant access to the Download Center. Note, each role is independent, and some colleagues need more than one role. For complete access to the reporting portal, Data Access Managers need to assign users to the File Downloads role and the Detailed Reports role. A staff member does not need both Summary Reports and Detailed roles. The Data Access Manager can invite users by sending an email with an assigned role, for example, Detailed Reports, Summary Reports, File Download, and/or Access Manager. The Data Access Manager can add multiple roles to a single email. The email takes less than 5 minutes to be sent to the invited user. If the user accepts the role, it will give them instant access to the K-12 Assessment Reporting portal. If an invitation is sent to a staff member that does not have a College Board account, they will be prompted in the email to create one. Users who have been assigned the detail role can log into their College Board Professional Educator account and select K-12 Assessment Reporting. Then, once you have accessed the K-12 Assessment Reporting portal, use the Find a Student Score Report feature on the landing page to locate a student's SAT School Day Score Report. Once the report loads, click on the SAT School Day Report to view more details and download an official PDF score report. Now we will transition to an overview of several reports within the K-12 Assessment Reporting portal. As a reminder, the SAT consists of 2 sections, Evidence-Based Reading and Writing and Math. The essay is an optional component of the SAT and was not administered in the spring of 2021. The SAT is on a 400 to 1600 point score scale. The evidence-based reading and writing section and the math section are each scored on a 200 to 800 point scale. The next portion of today's webinar will focus on the use of the Scores and Benchmarks report to review section-level scores. Let's begin with the Scores and Benchmarks report, which is accessible in the K-12 Assessment Reporting portal. The SAT College and Career Readiness benchmarks are based on actual student success in entry-level college courses. Specifically, the benchmark score represents a 75% likelihood of a student achieving at least a C grade in a first-semester credit-bearing college course in a related subject. For example, in the case of the evidence-based reading and writing benchmark, this represents a 75% likelihood of getting at least a C grade in a first-semester college literature, writing, or social science course. In the case of the math benchmark, this represents a first semester college-level algebra, statistics, pre-calculus, or calculus course. Overall college and career readiness is defined as achieving both of these section-level benchmarks on a given assessment. This report provides aggregate and student-level performance data for each school, including every score for the assessment you select. Use it to see how well students performed by comparing their scores to mean scores, benchmark data, and other statistics at the school, district, state, and total group levels. Establish baselines for school improvement goals, and identify which students did not meet benchmarks. Once you've accessed the Scores and Benchmarks report from the K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal, educators can use the following questions to guide their analysis of the SAT scores from the Spring 2021 administration. What trends stand out after reviewing the data? What percentage of your students met the College Board EBRW benchmark of 480? What percent of your students met the College Board Math benchmark of 530? What percent met both benchmarks? Educators can review this data and make actionable plans for this coming school year to support students. ISBE has asked College Board to include the information on this slide for clarity. Illinois students took the ISBE-provided SAT with Essay for the first time in spring 2017. This assessment serves as a valuable resource for students as it provides a free college entrance exam to every grade 11 student in the state. Providing this resource statewide increases equity of access for students. Illinois is also using this exam for state and federal accountability. Because this exam serves multiple purposes, students' scores have different meanings. ISBE has provided the FAQ, linked from this slide, to help explain what student SAT scores mean as a college entrance exam and what they mean for school and district accountability. Next, we'll review the Instructional Planning Report, which makes it easy to view students by performance group in specific subscores, as well as section and test scores. Use the Instructional Planning Report to see section scores in relation to college and career readiness benchmarks in math and in evidence-based reading and writing. Educators can see which skills are your students' strongest and which need the most improvement. It can also be used to inform classroom work and curriculum improvements. For section scores, colors indicate which students met benchmarks, which are approaching benchmarks, and which need to strengthen skills. Educators can also see students according to performance group within this report. For test scores and subscores, colors indicate which students are on track for college readiness, which are close to being on track, and which need to strengthen skills. Educators can view the Illinois learning standards associated with each subscore within the K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal as well. The Illinois learning standards are also accessible in the Instructional Planning Report. Click the question mark next to a subscore to view the associated standards for each subscore. After clicking on the See Standards button, the standards that are aligned to each subscore will be displayed. In the K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal, educators can click on any standard for the entire description. The standards can also be downloaded and saved as a PDF for more in-depth analysis outside of the portal. Educators can use the following Instructional Planning Report analysis activity to determine areas in which students are meeting and exceeding college and career readiness benchmarks. For example, in which areas did your students perform best? In which areas do your students need to improve? What trends did you notice that would inform processes for improvement? Educators can discuss these questions and make actionable plans for this coming school year to support students. The question analysis report gives the correct answer to each question. It then compares your school's performance on that question to the district, state, and nation. Additional detail is provided, giving the percentage of students who selected each answer and the percentage who omitted the question. This is also compared to the district, state, and nation. Question difficulty level may be filtered, as well as the associated cross-test scores and sub-scores for each question. This report includes disclosed items from the April 13, 2021 SAT School Day Administration. This report may also be used to view aggregate question level performance from the April 27 and May 18th SAT School Day. We'll now transition from the reports available in the K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal to the Illinois SAT Teacher Toolkit. The Illinois SAT Teacher Toolkit includes portions of readily available resources such as the SAT Test Specifications document, the Teacher Implementation Guide, the Skills Insight document, and lesson plans housed on the official SAT Practice platform. The Teacher Toolkit was mailed to all public high schools in early March. Due to the closure of schools in March of 2020, the College Board wanted to provide a refresher webinar on its contents and suggestions for its use. Teachers and College Board have much in common. We want students to own their future, and we want them to develop the knowledge and skills they need to access post-secondary education and career opportunities. The purpose of the Illinois SAT Teacher Toolkit is to give teachers tools and resources to build skills in your classroom that lead to student success, both on the SAT and beyond high school. The best way to get ready for the SAT is to engage in challenging coursework that focuses deeply on fewer topics and uses instructional best practices. When reviewing this toolkit, you'll see much of what the SAT assesses is already in your lesson plans because the SAT is aligned to the Illinois Learning Standards. This toolkit will introduce you to instructional resources that spark ideas for incorporating SAT college and career readiness skills into your classroom instruction. The toolkit contains samples and components of resources available online at the URL on the slide. The toolkit includes excerpts of the following resources. Test specifications for the redesigned SAT includes tables lifted from the test specifications for the redesigned SAT document that list content dimensions and descriptions of skills assessed on the SAT. Portions of the Teacher Implementation Guide, a document written with teachers in mind that highlights connections to curriculum and instruction, shares sample questions, and offers strategies to help students approach the SAT in the context of classroom learning. SAT Curriculum Review Worksheets, a set of worksheets that provides a deep dive into the skills and knowledge assessed on the SAT and shows how each score range describes student performance. Portions of Skills Insight for the SAT suite of assessments, a resource that shares the academic skills typically mastered at each score range and provides actionable suggestions for improving skills. Official SAT Practice Lesson Plans, lesson plans created by teachers for teachers, focused on the evidence-based reading and writing section and math section of the SAT. The hyperlinks on this slide will connect you to the complete versions of these 4 resources. In addition to the resources highlighted on this slide, there are other items included in the toolkit, such as the SAT Essay Rubric. The rubric is used by essay scorers to determine student performance on the SAT essay. Other auxiliary materials to support science and social studies teachers are also provided. The curriculum review worksheets referenced within the SAT Teacher Toolkit can be found on the URL on the slide. Additionally, to request the full version of the curriculum worksheets for reading, writing and language, and math, please email ilsat@collegeboard.org. What are the next steps to take now that the test administration is complete and data is available in the portal? First, establish and confirm the Data Access Manager for your school. Next, assign detailed reports level access to the people responsible for accessing the data from the SAT School Day Administration. Then, review reports within the K-12 Assessment Reporting Portal from the SAT School Day Administration. Lastly, access the SAT Teacher Toolkit at the URL on the slide. This concludes today's webinar on the Spring 2021 SAT School Day Scores and Reporting. I want to thank you for listening to the recording. If you have any questions, please send to ilsat@collegeboard.org.